know, you go through your life and you hear stories about how that, you know, one day you may be called upon to help someone, and those are just that, stories. You never dream that you walk right into the threshold of someone's life, hanging in the balance, literally. I believe every single one of us, at some point in our life, we cross the path of someone and we know that we're to do something, and there's not much time to react. It's a now thing.
The atmosphere in Romania, the environment, was depressing, demoralizing, filled with fear. And all of the people that we had met there on previous visits were afraid, or they had been persecuted, or they had been put in jail for their beliefs. They hated defectors. They hated people who left because it was bad propaganda for them.
I guess the first real attention I paid to it was about the time of Paul's defection, because there had been an incident with a Soviet sailor, and it was a terrible embarrassment to the Reagan administration, because this guy had been turned back over to the Soviets. He tried to defect in New Orleans and was turned back. Within a matter of weeks, Paul defects, and I can remember this coming across my desk as an issue that was obviously very important to the administration.
When I first went to Romania, I thought that it was like something out of George Orwell's Animal Farm. The removal of political rights and human rights, the censoring of the press. I mean, this was a really terrible country run by someone who was clearly a megalomaniac.
Remember, he's a totalitarian dictator. He has total and absolute control over every institution in the state.
Communism is a political system based on terror, fear, and lie. Communists were masters of deceit. They promised poor people, they promised working class, that they will build up a society where everybody will be equal with everybody. As soon as people accepted this lie, that heaven will be on earth, they saw the other face of communism, which is terror and oppression and darkness and death.
You know, the cult of Ceausescu, not unlike what we see in North Korea today, where these individuals get deified. They begin believing their own press releases and what everyone is telling them, and they are obsessed with power and the use of power, the monopolization of that power, which is why they have these dreaded secret police who will do anything to keep the boss in power. And religion, and particularly Christianity and Judaism, represented a threat, so that threat had to be crushed.
As I got to know Paul, he constantly lived in fear of being thrown in prison by the secret police, just like others. He would tell me stories about how that he would have a shipmate who would suddenly one day be there and the next day be gone, and they would never see him again.
It was not at all unusual back in the 1980s for those who were trying to defect from a communist regime, a brutal dictatorship, to be literally disappeared when they got home.
They had to get out of there. It was like a prison, one giant prison system, one giant gulag.
When that plane landed, just a lump comes up in my throat that I can't even describe. And it's like these words come into my mind. What are you doing? I mean, it's just like everything that had happened to me comes to a screeching halt, to where it's like, what are you doing? You just landed on a plane in a communist country that has a dictator that is a killer. And you're doing what? You're gonna go try to get a guy's family out.
What Eddie did, he has no diplomatic cover, he has no diplomatic protection. I mean, we pretty much know that every visitor to that country had somebody tailing them. You could be assured that you were picked up at the airport, followed to your hotel. Hotel room was wired, and your phone calls were monitored.
I remember the word mercy just flashing across my head. Just the word mercy. Thinking that this man needs mercy. When I meet a man like Paul, whose thirst for freedom and independence and liberty, it enraptures you, it captures you, it draws you in, it embraces you, it moves you to action.
Had Eddie not done this, one can speculate that the outcome might well have been different, because it's almost 4 years to the day that Eddie becomes involved in Paul's case that the Romanian Revolution occurs.
I think there are moments in life when it's right to do something and to take a stand and to put yourself on the line.
I think very often people understate the importance of individual acts like this to the whole future of a country like Romania.
We're all small stones, but when the small stone moves, it can make a landslide happen. The landslide, in fact, can't happen until the small stone moves. So we're not great boulders, and we can't change things we don't like tomorrow. But just because you can't change everything, it's not a reason we're not trying to change anything.
I think the pursuit of freedom is intoxicating. I'll never forget it as long as I live.